Olá, começa aqui a Fiada, podcast da Cora Design. No episódio de hoje, que é dedicado à moda circular, a gente vai dar continuidade à nossa série Produção Local, Cuidado Global. Eu sou Raquel Chame, sou cofundadora da Cora Design e eu tenho ao meu lado hoje Stijntje Jaspers, que é a cofundadora e diretora da Fibershed Holanda. Bom, eu vou virar minha chave da língua e vou começar a falar inglês em breve, então me desejem sorte. E além disso, saibam que a gente tem as legendas o tempo todo para que vocês possam acessar esse conteúdo da melhor forma. Vamos lá. Our conversation today is focused on the power of the circular economy and how it can help us to change fashion. Stein is a circular change maker. She has more than 25 years of experience in leading creative positions in the Dutch fashion retail industry. As co-founder and director of the Fibershed Netherlands Foundation, she connects the dots for the necessary change towards a regenerative future. Fibershed is a global movement of local communities developing regional fiber to textile systems that build soil and protect our biosphere. Am I forgetting something?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I would like to add that I'm also the author of the book Goede Gesprekstof, which in English translates into good conversation material. And it's about the textile system, how it is now, how it was in the past, and how we could change it. And it's written for teenagers, but actually interesting for everybody who's wearing clothes.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you for letting us know a little bit more about your work. And now let's get started. Could you start by explaining what a circular fashion system is?
So for us, circular system is about a bio-circular textile and clothing system, which means that we need to invest per region in natural fiber that add positively to soil, water, and biodiversity, and that we process these as local as possible into biodegradable textiles and clothing. We need these clothing to be of high quality so that we can use them for a very long time. And after a very long time in all the R strategies of the R ladder, it can go back into the soil as compost. So the textile waste will become food for the next generation fibers. And then next to it, it's also about, or maybe it cannot be without, producing and consuming less.
So we may say that this circular thinking is more than only extending the life cycle of garments or reducing waste, which is already a radical change in terms of the fashion we know as the conventional fashion, linear fashion. A circular fashion can actually help us to use our clothes as a compost for the soil. Am I right? And in this context, how important is the material innovation to closing the loop?
Yes, in this context, the material innovation to closing the loop is vital. And if we really want to be circular, it means no waste, and it means that everything stays in the loop. So if we talk about natural materials and we don't have enough of them and we don't have a lot of variety, then we should invest more in natural materials, because natural materials they are from high quality, so you can use them a long time, and you could do all the strategies of the R ladder, which are higher. Then you can recycle them for a few times, and after that it can go back into the soil as food for the next fiber. So it's really a closed system without any waste. So for us, that's really circular. Because with synthetic fibers, you will in the end always have some sort of waste, which are micro fibers, synthetic fibers. It's also important that we think of the whole circle when we design or when we buy something, so that we're responsible from all the steps until the yarn. Then of course we're already responsible from the yarn till the product, but we should also be responsible for the product after sale. And when you feel this responsibility, you will make immediately different choices, and material is one of them. Another thing is that as a company, you could also invest in different business models. So next to that, we need to invest in technologies for recycling. We could also invest in business models like repair, refurbishing, upcycle, resale, etc. And what is really important is that we work together on this. So if we know what the other party wants, we could also adjust accordingly.
This is very interesting, Stein, because some of the practices that you just mentioned, as repair, swap, or choosing second-hand clothes, for example, they don't necessarily need technological innovation. And it is also about creating a new culture, or in fact, getting back to the way we took care of clothes in the past. So, for example, considering clothes as items that actually last, and also remembering that we don't need to have our wardrobe so full of clothes that change according to the trends. So listening to you, it seems to me that people as consumers have an important role to play in the circular economy to actually make it reality. So can you tell us what the role consumers play in supporting the circular economy in fashion, and how we can become more active in our daily lives to make this movement more real?
Yes. Well, consumers, or actually we call them wearers or users, are a part of the land to wardrobe circle, as the Fibershed circle in the Netherlands is called, because they play an important role in the current linear system, because it's all about production and consuming, and they can play an equally or maybe even a more important role in changing it. Because whenever you spend money on buying a product, it's good to think about the world or the system that's behind this product. And then you have to think about, do I want to support this? Because when you spend this money on this item, you support this system. So that, I think, is always a very good reminder or trigger. And then you can see, are there alternatives? And I think the R ladder of the circular economy is a very supporting tool. You have high on the ladder is better for the environment, or going better towards the circular economy, and lower, it's a lower quality. So I can explain a bit about the R ladder. Because the highest step in the R ladder is refuse. So it's actually, do I still want to be part of this system? Do I continue to play this role, or can I do something differently? The second step is rethink. So think about the value of clothing. Think about, do I need so much? Think about, what do I really need? And where do I buy it? And how long can I wear it? And the third step is about reduce. Knowing actually that the product you do not buy and the product or the clothing you wear for a long time are the most sustainable ones. So if we talk about sustainability and circularity, stop buying clothes and just wear what you have. It's the best way, and it's also cheaper. Then the fourth step is reuse. So it is about lending, handing over, swapping, buying secondhand. So if you don't want this item anymore or does not fit, it doesn't mean it's not a good item. Other people can be happy with it. So also in this way, clothing can be used longer. The fifth step is repair. As you mentioned, we forgot about repairing. Once it's broken, we throw it away. We should go back to letting it repair or learn it yourself. It's also really nice to do it, actually. And the sixth step is refurbish or upcycle. And this is really about making from an old garment a new garment. So for example, for 2 blouses, make a dress. And that's also a really nice way to change your wardrobe. So you don't have to buy something new, but you use what you have and you make new items out of it. These 3 steps are about long usage. So once you have it, keep it as long as possible. Then we go to step 7, which is repurpose. And this means use it in a different way. And it means it's not anymore clothing, but it will go to the construction sector or to the automobile sector or maybe to another sector. And then we have the eighth one is recycling, what we all talk about. So it's almost the last step of the circular economy. And recycling is making new textiles from old textiles. And why it is last? Because you need a lot of technology and energy, because you first have to break everything apart into fibers and then spin it again into new yarn. So it is much more energy and work than using a cloth or a blouse as is in a different way. And the last one, it is about energy, so then they burn, but we say it's about regenerate, so it's about bringing it back into the soil as food. And the last steps are actually about reusing again. So if you have this R letter in your head, you can find it on our website, then this helps to think about what can I do. And I think especially the first 6 steps are the ones we as wearer can play a role in. And the last 3 steps about repurpose, recycle, and regenerate, we cannot do ourselves. But what we can do is once we throw something out, so please only throw it out when it's really, you can't do anything with it anymore, then please throw it into the textile container and never ever with the normal waste. Yeah, and I think what is also important is when you do need or want to buy something new, which of course is okay, then look at the material, try to buy natural materials, try to buy mono materials, so it means not a mix, but of one material, and also see where it is made and how it is made. And to be honest, when you think the price is too good to be true, so actually too cheap to be true, it is not a true price.
Also, starting to help our listeners to understand what is the actual stage you are in the Netherlands when it comes to the circular economy in fashion. It would be really nice if you could bring us some examples of brands, initiatives that are leading this way in this specific area.
Yeah, well, in the Netherlands, there's a lot of things happening in the circular economy, but most of the bigger brands are at the end of the chain are talking about recycling and doing a little bit of secondhand. But I would like to share some examples from the Fibershed network who really go into this regenerative system. And in the network, we have different types and different businesses. So some of them are independent designers and makers, and they make small collections or one-off items, and they make it in a very crafty and more handmade way. For example, Rua Atelier, who is making pigments for textiles from all kinds of plants and food waste. And Rianne de Witte, who is making a timeless a dress collection from natural materials. But what is also good, so you would say, well, maybe they don't make a lot of impact because they only make a small collection, but it's not true because they are actually good examples. And they are very good in and enthusiastic about sharing their knowledge with others. So we really think that they are an important part of this Land to Wardrobe circle. Then we have brands who have a wider collection. They all aim to be very circular and sustainable. And some brands do it all themselves. A nice example is the Knitwit Stable. It's a sheep farm, a knitting factory, a design studio, and an educational institute all in one. So they make from their own, they have wool from their own merino sheep and Angora goats, and also they collect Dutch wool from the neighborhood. They make their own brand, they produce for other brands, and they give a lot of masterclasses and workshops for professionals and also for other people who are interested in the system. And others are producers. They provide a service in the circle. We have, for example, Alles Wool, which is a small company who's doing washing, scouring, carding, and spinning of the wool. Then we have Enschede Textielstad, who is doing the weaving, and she only weaves from natural materials or from recycled materials, and she does not dye, so the yarn is the color. And they all work together, so that's also nice. They all work together in the circle.
Yeah, nice.
And then we have another one which I really like to mention. It's Saphir, and they develop textile dye from seaweed that is suitable for industrial textile dyeing systems and is also color fast. So some of them are still experimenting and doing pilots, and others are already doing production and are scaling up. So I think it's interesting to have them all together in this network.
Amazing. And you mentioned that they are in some cases collaborating, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is really
that's
nice.
of course what we stimulate, but they also find each other. And yeah, for example, the yarn from the knitweed stable is woven at Enschede Textielstad. The linen from Enschede Textielstad is in the collection of Jolien Joling. Again, also with a new tailor. So, you know, and then they work together with Rua, who is doing then the dyeing. So they find each other, and that's also what we would like to do, because you can't do it alone. You have to help each other and to close the circle, and also help each other by mentioning each other and giving each other credits and, you know, sharing insight.
Yeah, this partnership is absolutely important.
Yes.
I will be sure to let all the links for our listeners in our description. It is very inspiring to know more about these initiatives and how some brands are making a great job in the Netherlands. And I'm happy to tell you that in Brazil, we are also building a very strong networks of brands and organizations who are committed to sustainable practices and the circular economy. And Brazil, I think, has a quality, which is we are a very big country with all the chain in our own territory. So this is a great chance for us to create alternative systems. So I'm very optimistic about the way we can work in cooperation and creating partnerships between all the players we have in the fashion system.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned that I think that's great, because that is a challenge in the Netherlands. We do not have this production anymore. So we are setting up everything. So I think it's great that you have it all. It's then only to change. It's not only, but to change the way of working. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge a challenge, but it's still something that we can see as a bright future for the sector. And talking about the challenges, I'd like to ask you, in your view, what are the key barriers for preventing the fashion industry from adopting circular economy principles? And here I'm talking both about the Netherlands and Brazil and this global fashion in general.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenge for us all is this huge amount of low quality synthetic or mixed fabric clothing that is pushed on the market all the time, and it's also bought by many people. So it's not just the production side; it's also the consumption side. And we came from fast fashion, and now we have ultra fast fashion, which is even worse, because some of the companies like Shein and Temu, they ship directly from the factory to the consumer, so it comes directly into our wardrobe. And doing this, they ignore the rules and the laws that we have set up, for example, in Europe, and I'm sure you have them also in Brazil or in the United States, that try to protect a bit the social and the ecological impact that clothing is making. So clothing that is made in a regenerative and circular way is more expensive. First of all, because they internalize these effects. So they make sure there are no or hardly any negative effects on the environment, and they are sure they pay their people a normal price with the normal hours, etc. So when you pay more for these products, it is because you pay for this price, and the other ones don't let you pay for the price, but other people pay for this price. So it's actually really not fair. And then the difference between the higher prices of the good products and the low prices of the bad products is really growing, because the low products or the low price product become cheaper, But it's like comparing apples with pears, you know? So it's actually not a good comparison. And I think what is the challenge is to make sure that the good products become cheaper, but still have the true price, so that more people can buy them. Because at the moment it's really a niche market, because they are in the Netherlands really expensive. So only a small group can buy them. But I think it's also important that we get some help, for example, from the government, that we make the good choices easy and also accessible for a wider group, and the bad choices more difficult and not accessible for a wider group.
We would have a lot to talk about, and I'm learning a lot from this conversation, Stein, but unfortunately our time has come to an end, and I will bring you my last question, which is which is very related to what we just mentioned in terms of how the government and the public policies can also help us to build this alternative. So what changes do you believe are necessary at the policy level to support the growth of circular economy in fashion, both locally and globally?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention that when you want a system change, you need companies, NGOs, so we are like a foundation, government, and the financial system to work together, and they all have a responsibility, and also the consumers. So it's really important that we all address this. And the policy level in the Netherlands and in the European Union, there is this Green Deal, and we are focusing towards a circular economy in 2050, which is great. But it is a little bit too much focus on the end of the chain. It's about using what we already have. But if we do this, and if we do this perfectly, and we use everything 5 times, recycle everything 5 times, which is not possible at the moment, but keep on producing and consuming as we now do, then it is like a Dutch saying, mopping the floor with the tap running. So first of all, it's not changing anything, and also it is not making a new system. So if we want to change the system, we need also to look at the beginning of the value chain and to start growing the materials, use only natural materials, and make it in a social and ecological way into textiles that are biodegradable, etc. And all this work only if we start to consume less. So also the wearer has a role to play in this. So focus on less new, use what we already have, and only when we do something new, we make it in a new regenerative and biodegradable way. Next to this, we need to have a label that informs the wearer when you buy something new, what is the footprint and why it is better or worse than something else. And now we have a lot of labels, but they're not transparent and they're not always good. So the European Union is working on the PEF, the product environmental footprint. But for this, they use data from the current system. And also in this data, there is a lot of lobbying from the current system, because of course they make a lot of money, so they do not want to change. So it is not yet good. For example, a recycled polyester t-shirt from Bangladesh for €5 is now more sustainable than a woolen pullover from wool from the Netherlands, knitted in the Netherlands. If you use your common sense, that's not correct. So it is coming from all these Excel sheets and data, etc. So also we need to have a counter voice. So that's why it's important to have all these networks working together so the Fibershed network globally, but also in the Netherlands, to have as much as possible entrepreneurs and initiatives part of this network. So together we can make another voice. And for this, we also work with Make the Label Count, for example. And next to this, we need to focus on awareness for the new generation. So that's why we wrote this book, and we make nice awareness lesson programs for schools to use.
I really appreciated our conversation today, Stijn, and I hope this is the beginning of a nice partnership between Brazil and the Netherlands. Thank you very much for joining me at FIADE. And for those listeners who just arrived at our videocast series, Just a quick note, in the first episode, I talked with Susana Aguiar. She's a farmer and a female leader from Rede Borborema. This is a Brazilian cooperative that grows organic cotton and food using the principles of agroecology, agroecologia in Portuguese. She shared her perspectives with me about how we can create fashion that is healthier from the ground and that has a positive impact both for the environment and the community. That was a very nice conversation, and I recommend that you also listen to it. There's no need to follow an order. The 3 episodes of our series, they are deeply connected, and you can join at any time. Thank you again for your time, and I see you all very soon in the next episode of the series. Thank you, Stein.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.